Hey, you're listening to the Futurephonic Podcast, episode number 2. I'm Alex.
And I'm Sam.
And coming up today, we're going to be taking your audio calls. We're going to be giving advice. We're going to be chatting to Brainiac. And we're going to be giving away some more free shit.
Yeah, awesome. We got a really cool little thing we're giving away today. Looking forward to that one.
Yeah, the initial audio Sektor.
Wavetable. So, how have you been? What's going on?
So I just finished writing a letter to Craig Anderton. Craig Anderton is like, if you're a Cubase person like me, you might recognize his name from the front. So GUI of Quadrafuzz. It's written in this lovely little sort of little script, like by Craig Anderton. Quadrafuzz is a plugin that just comes up all the time because, namely, what it does with bass. I mean, I use it for leads as well. It really is the only plugin that I can say truly is like pretty much like an always goodifier, like an always amazing-ifier that you just put it on bass. Like every single sampled bass that I put in all of our sample packs always has Quadrafuzz. It always sounds better. First preset.
It does, it's true.
And I don't know, these plugins don't come up very often. Okay, so the problem is that if you're on the new Cubase or on any other DAW, then you can't get the plugin really. There was some wrapper thing.
I actually did manage to get it to work on Ableton for about half an hour. It was actually working, but then I reloaded, the project crashed, I reloaded it and never getting it again. It never worked.
So that was like a VST wrapper thing.
Yeah, that J bridge thing, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, like ways have crept in of getting it to work, but they're never reliable. And the last thing we need is like plugins which are crashing. So it's this legendary plugin. I even know people who have Cubase just for that plugin. So I got in touch with Steinberg and I said, guys, what's the fucking situation? And they're like, well, the plugin was made by Craig Anderton, as it says on the front. So I emailed Craig like a couple years ago, and I was like, Craig, what's going on? And I never heard back from him. So I've just finished emailing him again, and I still haven't heard back from him. But I thought I'd actually just read out what I wrote. Yeah. Because this is. I want you to know how passionate. I mean, I'm good, by the way. I've got Quadrafuzz. Like, I've got Quadrafuzz working.
Good. I got Quadrafuzz.
So, sorry, guys.
Yeah,
but,
I'm good. Great.
but like, I'd say a majority of you probably don't. So I'm taking a hit for the team here. Okay, I need to get my like charity appeal voice on now. Hi, Craig. I'm a big fan of your work, but I need to get something off my chest. And then I introduced myself as being from Futurephonic. There's a problem that not only hundreds of our students and customers have, but also endless world-famous artists that we're connected to. Few more urgently than myself. Though the strengths and versatility of your Quadrafuzz plugin may seem quickly apparent to anyone casually flicking through the presets, the phenomenon of its effect when placed on bass lines, especially in the psychedelic trance scene I represent, has become quite simply a thing of legend. Because I don't know if he knows what he's begun, So back to letter. I know people who have old versions of Cubase just to apply this one effect, Quadrafuzz, default preset. The hum and warmth it applies is not just distinct but inimitable, and it was no fad. That sound is still strived for to this day. Some say it can be imitated by other multi-band distortion plugins, but we laugh those voices out of the room. Even Quadrafuzz version 2 can't inject that magic, just because they made a version 2 in later Cubases, which I don't use really. Back to letter. Even Quadrafuzz version 2 can't inject that magic, not even close. And every time a high-profile artist drops the Q word in an interview, we get buried in messages about it. I'm an Ableton user, how can I get this plugin? I'm on Cubase 9, how can I get Quadrafuzz working? Craig, need I resort to assembling a petition signed by countless artists from bedroom to world touring? We need this plugin brought back in 64-bit for use in any DAW. It's crazy that people are downloading old versions of Cubase just to use this plugin. I would even happily lead a crowdfunding campaign to make the comeback of this plugin a reality. Just tell me your price. The world needs this. I have thousands of people behind me and I'm willing to prove it. Even the opportunity to start a dialogue about this idea would be most wonderful, Craig. Thank you for your time, Alex Story. Craig, are you out there? You're not getting back to my emails. What's going on? I mean, I doubt he's listening, but I'm gonna send this. You said he worked at Sound on Sound.
Well, I know he used to, because I've read. I remember reading a bunch of articles that he's done, and they were definitely in Sound on Sound. I don't know if he still does now, because I haven't read Sound on Sound in a couple of years. But yeah, he definitely used to. Maybe try and get in contact with them. Dude, we should probably just start a crowdfunding campaign.
Yeah, but I can't. He won't respond to me.
Well, maybe he will if we've got,
If we're standing outside his house.
Yeah. Greg, give me Quadrafuzz. I need it.
So if you know where he lives, anybody listening, then just feel free to just drop us a discreet message. I will go there. We'll make a fucking documentary about it. I just thought that would be great.
That'd be epic.
Great video content.
That'd be so epic. One man's quest to get Quadrafuzz back.
Craig, if you're listening, please get in touch. I don't want to have to take things that far. And just for the legal official record, I would never come to your house unless you invited me, in which case, let's hang out, let's drink tea, let's talk about getting this plugin back, because people fucking need it. Everyone needs it.
People do need it. Everyone does need it in their life. And it's funny because, I remember I think we tried once when Saturn came out by FabFilter, and we tried to sort of recreate it way back in the day, and it just nothing sounds quite like it. Yeah,
forget about it.
Doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Yeah. So let's get into some calls.
Hey Alex and Sam, David Sheehan, Alto Stay here from Dublin. I want to wish you the best on your brand new podcast. I have two quick questions for you here. Who inspires you on a day-to-day basis? Would it be older producers or some new fresh talent that's coming through? And when you get writer's block in the studio, what ways do you get around that? Do you listen to other genres of music or different styles? And how do you get the creative juices flowing again? Again, wishes the best, lads.
Dave, great question. So in terms of the psytrance world, in terms of older stuff at the moment is really doing it for me. Because I live out in Australia, I'm quite close to New Zealand, obviously, and there's two guys called Antics, also go by the name Fjord. They make more sort of progressive house these days, but back in the day, they made 3 awesome prog albums. I think I don't even know when they were, 2007, 2008, maybe even earlier than that. And seeing them, they dropped a couple of their older tracks. So the last week or two, I've just been going back and listening to them. The first one's called Lull. And I can't remember what the other two are called, but it's Antics, Antix. I've been on a sort of bit of a spate of the older sort of mid 2000s prog at the moment, which has been really doing it for me. And in terms of other stuff, probably the biggest thing for me recently has been John Hopkins' new album.
Yes.
Singularity. That's just probably one of the greatest single pieces of music that I've ever heard, which was surprising because I had such an attachment to Immunity, his previous one, and the follow-up EP, and I was quite scared that it was gonna suck. And a friend of mine actually, he went to Boom recently. He went off to Europe for a couple of months, and we had a big listening party. And we sat and listened to the whole thing all the way through, and it just completely blew my mind.
It's so emotional. It's just paved a whole new way of how electronic music can be so visceral and so just so emotive. I know it's not sort of psytrance, but I mean, I would love to hear that kind of stuff in psytrance. Just that it's totally emotional yet completely unsentimental.
Yeah. I mean, I think just the story that he tells from start to finish, and the way that he just plays with sounds, like, and his transitions between tracks is awesome. Like, he'll just create a space and then like shift into this other space, and it just like all works. That's really awesome. What else have I been listening to recently? The new Niels Fram album is quite nice. All melody. I've been listening to that quite a bit. And actually, I've just been getting into a lot of old 80s stuff recently again as well. I've got a massive soft spot for like cheesy 80s, like power ballads. So I've been listening to a lot of that recently, which has been really fun. Yeah, what's been inspiring you, Alex?
I try to stay up to date with what's new right now, and I just generally like hearing what new producers are coming up with. And like Sam, I also just listen to lots of other genres as well. I tend to get into like a few projects every now and then that keep me going for a really long time. But actually, generally when I'm in the studio, I'm just trying to stay super focused on what I'm doing. And if I feel the need to get inspired by other stuff, I like going to YouTube. That's like just the related videos. It seems to be a good way of just finding music. I want to hop onto your second point about writer's block. I think that writer's block is a creative problem which we often try to figure out in an intellectual way as if it's a math problem. And I think that's generated by just staring at it. When you're sitting there and you're looking at the screen and you're just looking at that arrangement, that Cubase, the Ableton, the Logic, the plugins, you're just looking at it and almost trying to visually figure it out. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to get the creative juices flowing, right? So something I've chatted about before, so I think turn off the screen. So I'd say turn off the screens and listen to what's coming out of those speakers. But one thing that helps me to approach the problem in a more visceral way is to think back to the pivotal moments that inspired me. So for instance, so it's 2003, 2004. I was at a Little Green Planet party. And no one knew it at the time, but this was pretty much the end of an era. The liquid connective parties that had completely recharged and that had been so crucial to the English psytrance scene. These big epic forest parties that just, had no one had seen before. It's where I started. It's where me and Joe started. Joe from Sonic Species. It's where a bunch of us got converted. Those big, basically illegal raves came to a head at this little Green Planet party. So there's this party kicking off. There's 1,000, 2,000 people there. The dance floor's at the bottom of this really big hill. A lot of people are sitting on the hill. I'd just been dancing all night, and I fell asleep, and I woke up, and I was sort of slowly coming to my senses. And when I looked down the hill at this dance floor, I'd maybe been asleep for a couple hours. I felt like something had sort of changed. There's this change in the atmosphere. I felt it on like a innate level. I felt like the party had shifted into a new place. I collected myself. I got up. I walked down the hill. And as I approached the dance floor, which was still strong, I mean, there's still hundreds of people on this dance floor, it was a big deal. What was going down there was more focused. People looked like they'd sort of lost control of their arms and legs and were almost being sucked into some sort of gravitational vortex, as if whoever was playing the music was moving whole waves of people. It was like everyone was in complete sync with each other, like it had been choreographed or something. And the music was so digital and dynamic. It felt like it had progressed 10 years or 100 years just in the 2 hours that I'd been asleep. And the music itself sounded a bit like a sort of Star Wars TIE fighter fight or something. It was incredibly dynamic and sort of had this gravitational feel. I'd never heard anything like it. every 16 bars, it would morph into a whole new feel. It would be reflective and melodic, and then suddenly it'd be completely cyber and futuristic, and then it would turn into a build-up, and then it was constantly catching me by surprise, and the dance floor was getting jerked around like they were in a hurricane or a tornado or some sort of natural disaster. I found out later that was Shane Goby playing that, and people talked about the set for years to come. And it was just moving. I mean, it was completely moving. I decided right there and then. I mean, I'd already started producing, but I was like, whoa, like this is a new era. So it was the end of an era of a generation of parties, but for me, it was the beginning of something just so inspiring, and it gave me something to chase, something to follow. If I could make music that embodied that experience, it gave me a reason to live, a reason to produce, like a reason to just sit there for hour after hour. Like I'd just go back to it. Even thinking about it, even talking about it to you right now, you can hear my voice has become more animated. I've got more, the blood is flowing through me. I've just setting that memory alive makes me feel inspired. Like I want to write Psytrance right now. I want to reignite that feeling right now. And so I've energized myself. So what I recommend for writer's block is to just think back to these early experiences, get that blood flowing, get the passion going again. Take a minute out, walk around the block if you have to. Sometimes it's like just physically get out of the studio for like 5 fucking minutes. Just make a coffee, whatever. Just get out of that space and reconnect with the reason that you're doing it in the first place. What really gets you going? Which memories do you have to yourself that get your blood flowing?
It's a good way of doing it. I think, often reconnecting to what got you going in the first place is always, like you say, you'll never lose that. That's something that you're always going to have. I've got a couple more practical tips. One thing I often like to do when I'm in writer's block is actually just go and listen to like music that I really don't like. Like I'll just go and listen to something that I absolutely hate, like I don't know, some EDM or like some sort of whatever I'm really not enjoying at the moment. And something about that process for me, after like 2 to 3 minutes of listening to something that I hate, I start getting really good ideas in my head of like what I actually want to make. And I often find that jumps me back in.
Like, how can I rebel against this?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
what's the opposite of this?
Yeah, like what would sound really fucking great right now? And like, because often I find I've just like gotten to a point where I'm just criticizing everything that I'm doing. I'm not giving myself a chance to actually make something. So I'm just like, okay, let's just go and like listen to some absolutely bullshit, like whatever the fuck it is. And then I'm like, what's going to sound like really dope? And then I'll come back and start making that. That usually gets me going. And the other one is often is something that I find a lot of my students actually as well, is that they'll get caught in this trap of wanting everything to be amazing and like wanting everything to be perfect or wanting it to happen really quickly, or that they have an expectation on what they think it should be. And so they just sort of go round and round in circles. And I've done this plenty of times myself. And one thing that often really works is I make a game of it where I'm like, okay, if I'm in writer's block because I think what I'm making is crappy, like basically I need to get moving again. Like it doesn't matter what it is, I just need to get moving again. So what I say to myself is I'm like, okay, I'm going to give myself like an hour to write the worst track I've ever written, and I make it like a game as to like I'm just gonna make something that's absolutely terrible and see how bad I can make it. And then that removes like all the pressure on me actually having to do anything. Like I don't care then, I'm just like, fuck it, I'll just put this in. And the thing that often happens out of that is that you actually end up writing something quite good because you just need movement again. Like you just need to keep working. And so it's like any way that you can almost like trick yourself into saying, all right, well, rather than me just sitting there and beating myself up about what I think I'm doing or not doing or how I think it should sound, I'm like, I'm just going to do something, like I'm just going to make the worst track I've ever made. And then usually I ended up writing something actually quite good out of it. So a bunch of different ways, but I think doing sort of the opposite of what I think I should be doing often quite helps.
Okay, everybody, next we're going to be talking to Brainiac. He's a great guy. He's an intelligent musician. We're going to be asking him. We're actually going to be putting one of our callers to him. He's gonna be helping me answer one of your questions. We're also gonna be talking about his weirdly efficient mind and originality in music in the psytrance scene today, and just chatting shit about his various other stuff, including his Quadrafuzz project that he's doing with YO, Signwriter, and Materia. So let's get to him. Phil.
Hello.
How are you?
How are you doing? Very good. Long time no see.
Yeah.
Since our tutorial, I think.
Yeah. And you're joining us from Bristol today.
Yes, I am. Just woke up, having a tough time waking up, but there we go. Here we are.
So you're kind of a morning guy, huh?
Yeah, usually I am, but not when you celebrate life. Then the morning after is always a little bit more difficult, as we know.
Celebrate life?
Yeah. There's always something to celebrate, you know. So if you don't have a reason to celebrate, an obvious one, then you just celebrate life.
I love that positivity.
Yeah, it's great. Especially next morning, it converts to negativity very quickly. But yeah, let's do our best.
It's that enduring spirit, I think, which we all love about you. I don't know. I used to sleep until like midday when I was like a cliche musician, and now I'm like, my partner gets up at 8, and to be honest, by 9 I've got my emails done. I'm fucking productive now.
Yeah, that's what everybody's reporting, really. Also for myself, usually when you get up, you're done with half of your task by midday, and then you can either enjoy yourself or work more or whatever. Yeah, I'm usually waking up at 8 in the morning as well and have all my stuff done have a break at midday, 1, 2 o'clock, because you're really productive just a couple of hours a day, I think, in my opinion. I'd prefer to have a 5-hour day that is focused and really just working from the beginning to the end, having your train of thought and finishing up until the end.
That's so European.
Yeah, it might be German. Yeah, it might be the influence. Yeah, who knows? But yeah, I don't like to waste my time. Having breaks, going 8 hours to work for 8 or 9 hours a day, and having that 1 hour break, it just kind of breaks your flow. Also, when you're producing, I prefer to sit down for a couple of hours and finish my flow, and then just time. It satisfies me more. It's just how some people need breaks.
It's how you work.
That's how my brain works. Every brain is different, you know.
It's how you get shit done.
Yeah, it's how I get shit done.
You strike me as an organized kind of guy. Like I noticed that like you're always on the hour. You know, when you picked us up from Bristol bus station at the time, it was like bang on. It was like 58, 59, you show up. Even today, I was like, do you want to like talk at 10? And like 9:59 and 59 seconds, I see the little chatting dots.
Yeah, it's a curse.
Oh.
It's a German curse. When you're born in Germany and you grew up there, you went to school, you were in the system, you were drilled.
Yeah.
Then I think it kind of, it colors off. You become one of them. And it's beneficial in some ways, especially if you want to work professionally.
On a level of 1 to 10, how ring binder are you?
Well, maybe 9.
Color code?
I don't operate by colors, only by numbers.
Are we like laminated flight itineraries, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, my bag is pretty much organized in segments. Mm-hmm. No color codes. Never did the marker thing as well. But everything, it's more like spatial in segments. Everything is nicely packed into its own little bag. Mm-hmm. And I'm being laughed at many times when I'm packing together. When I used to pack my laptop together after playing, a lot of people would give me weird looks because like I meticulously put everything together.
Like 90-degree angles. Do you pack your underwear into like little squares?
Mate, a lot of people don't even know. I don't have it here right now that the MacBook Pro charger actually has those little ears you can pull out and wrap your cable around. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that exists. It's like, you see, it's designed for a purpose. You can wrap your cable around it. You can have it nice and tight in your bag. It doesn't have to fill up all the space. And it translates as well, I think, to a lot of areas in life as well, which you can then improve or change or whatever. Like in the production side of things, it's also you tend to like there I use the color codes actually.
Yes.
And when when I'm segmenting and color coding my elements and keep order in the project, delete unused files. It's more an OCD thing, I think.
But your screen is beautiful. Like your Logic screen was like just wonderful to look at. It made me feel like just positive. You know, it made me feel good about the world. Just your like yellow percussion and your green synths. Or did I get that wrong? It's purple.
I think you got it wrong. I think synths are red. I think percussions are green. I think effects are yellow, and I think Kick and Bass is something dark, like blue or something. But everybody again feels different, and everybody's brain operates differently. So I've also come across people who color code everything totally differently, and I had to work in those projects.
That's worse than other people's shortcuts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can't work with I can work with other people, but only if we have the same shortcuts, people. I can't work with you unless we have the same shortcuts.
Yeah, in my 20s, I was like malleable. I could sit down like, okay, we've got a new system here. And now I'm like, I'll just bring like my own computer because you go to zoom in and it like deletes half the fucking project. You're like, how is this even like useful for you? Like, how often do you want to delete like half the project?
Yeah, the longer you work with stuff, I think you get used to it. I mean, we are also designed to learn new stuff every day, but it's beneficial for the workflow as well. If you just kind of work in a way for a while, it gives you like a certain routine and certainty about what you do, and you shouldn't take up time really looking for how to operate your software or looking for functions and that kind of stuff.
That's the efficiency talking again.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I love it.
You want to be quick, or you want to spend time exploring and experimenting with stuff, and not like finding out how stuff works really. It's
By the way, speaking of your masterclass, man, like we had so much positivity about your class. We had so many comments coming in. You're kind of a live wire. I think your energy just really kept people up.
Yeah, cool. That's what I've heard as well, man. Like just now I was at Boomtown last weekend, and I still get people like, hey, I've seen your masterclass. That was really good. It was really entertaining to listen to. And stuff like that, which I found I haven't listened to it back myself.
Oh, don't do that, God. Is there anything worse than watching yourself?
It's nothing. There's nothing worse than listening to yourself or watching yourself.
Hey, I have to edit it.
Yeah, man.
I even have to edit this.
That's off to you, man. That's just like that's an accomplishment in itself. I'm already cringing when I have to edit my gig videos and. Stuff. It's bad, man. It's bad. So I couldn't really say how it was or how I was, but people keep telling me apparently it was not so bad. So yeah, and I'm really glad actually that people enjoyed and that the content was cool as well, that it wasn't too boring to watch as well, because I think that's very important in nowadays world where everything becomes a little bit of entertainment as well. To keep it a little bit of I didn't do it on purpose, it's just me, but to keep things lively a little bit, or I think people like to see that, or watch podcasts as well. I think that's what's happening right now. It's very hard to be yourself in front of when some camera is pointing at you, but again, I think like you get used to it more and more.
You just gotta own it.
You gotta own it. You gotta own it. You gotta do it. Yeah.
We went pretty late until your neighbor cut it short.
You've been there when he banged at the door.
Is he still there?
Yeah, he's still there, but we kind of agreed to a 10 to 10, from 10 in the morning to 10 in the evening, which is, I think, again, it gives you this window. You have to wake up in the morning, you have time until 10 to get ready, which is plenty of time. Do your breakfast, do your whatever runs, and then just work, and you have 12 hours, and it's enough in theory.
So once again, you've turned it into an efficient exercise.
Yeah.
Other people would just be like, that fucking asshole next door. But you're like, okay, I can actually, hang on, I can adapt to this, and I can become an efficient worker inside the framework which I've been given by this guy.
Given by this guy, yes, indirectly, but it's just, I think...
negotiated.
Yeah, negotiated. I could have just also because it's my place. I could have just do whatever
Sure.
I wanted and just let the police come, and it wasn't really loud. It's just a very good speakers.
Can you help me answer one of our callers today?
Absolutely.
Cool.
We all start producing music. We all do, as I imagine, because we love what we do, and because we want to use music as a way to express our feelings. But when the day goes by, when time goes by, and this happens in all music genres, an artist, after he's successful, not always what the public wants. I mean, if you have a scene that most people like, melodic, progressive, psytrance based on offbeat, a full-on artist or a high-tech artist is most likely to have a hard time. But the question is, how do you find balance between what you want to express, what you need to express, because that's why we all start producing music anyways, and what the public wants to hear, you know.
So depends on really what you want and what your attitude is really. So if you are, I mean, you can solve this in many different ways. You could have like one project for each time of the day. You can have one high-tech project. You can have one progressive project. You can have a full-on project. Then you're covered. If you manage to express your feelings through that, if you manage to express your feelings only through a certain style, then you're kind of a bit stuck as well, and you're relying on the promoter to book you for the right time for you to play, which you can't always rely on. So there is this dilemma of, do I write music for myself? Do I write it for somebody else? Do I write it for the dance floor? And I think it's a little bit of, it's a mixture of things. I mean, especially when you're DJing, it might be a little bit different, but it's not really much different, because you always play what you like as well. But you always have to please the crowd as well.
Yeah.
I think you should always express your feelings and not change yourself to adapt to a certain style if you don't want to. If you see it as a business, then it's a business decision. Then you can go down certain roads and paths, which will lead to success or wherever you want to go. It depends on what you want, again, as I said before.
Yeah, it's a very well trod out path, you know, a fairly set route, you know, which involves recreating a very generic sound at an industry standard level of production.
Yes.
And then you can always, if you just keep doing that, you will make a living. But
yes,
but this guy's, you know, I like his question, because it's like, you know, how to balance.
This is where I wanted to go with this, was that depending on what you want and which path you want to go down, right? I can speak for myself as well a little bit, because I want to feel good about what I'm writing. I want to write quality music, and I want it to comply with my with my standards in my head, or what I expect from the music. But obviously you also want the banging dance floor. I mean, that's your job. You get booked to rock the house, right?
Yeah.
So
it's the entertainment business.
It's the entertainment business. And so, like, how for myself, I do try to find a balance. I want to think, because the scene is changing. The scene changed a lot in terms of commercial influences and into a slightly different direction, and there's a split up happening, but that's another story. However, I think for myself personally, I try to incorporate, or depends on if it works in the track, but you can make use of certain, how do I say in English, I don't know if it makes sense, stylistic phrases. Yeah, you can, maybe you should definitely make use of these, right? Because it's certain things that people want to hear over and over. You have, like, let's say in certain types of rock music or whatever, you have that certain type of drum fill as well.
Yeah.
Even in sidetrance, you have that. If we talk about commercial stuff, you have that certain type of drum fill, and then a certain stylistic phrase, like a dry kick and bass line follows. Yeah, that just works. It's like it's a stylistic phrase. It's like a thing in it that works and that has proven. Yeah, it's a tool. It's a hammer. Yeah, you want to
The dry drop, the build up, the drum fill,
What you make around it though is entirely up. It almost as it doesn't matter, right? So you can serve whatever you want around that, just if you package it right. So I think you're always selling an illusion as well, a little bit on the dance floor. Everything's like, it's not the real world. It's
But I've been doing this for so long. Are you telling me this isn't real?
Yeah. Yeah, it might be. What's real,
It's too early in the morning to be doubting reality at this level.
Is it real? Am I dreaming? I don't know, man. You tell me.
But so you're saying, and I really like that resonates with me, is that so there's a framework of psychedelic trance, and that to try and tick some of the boxes, the kick and the bass, basically like do whatever, but if you also want to play the industry game, just it doesn't hurt to drop some of this sort of zeitgeist current stuff just to keep it, just to tie it all together.
Yeah. I mean, you can make it your own as well. It doesn't mean that you have to use the same sound. It doesn't mean that you have to use the same sequencing. It's just like about the order of things. Nobody's complaining about the A B structure in a pop song. Nobody's complaining. You have to think of also like about using presets or everybody's using your presets at the moment, like in the scene, and nobody's really complaining, or it's in many cases you don't even hear it because you make it your own as well. It's not a shame to make use of successful things. Why would you reinvent something like the wheel, which is quite successful at rolling, right? Why would you make it square? There is no point. So you just take the wheel, man, and you do incredible stuff with wheels.
Yeah. I mean, Infected Mushroom, they just kind of polished the wheel and gave it a new paint job, but it was still, it was still trying. I mean, Simon Posford, even Vinny Vici, like him or hate him, they're still, they're still packing a whole new sound into the same old. I think he left as soon as I mentioned Vinny Vici. I think that's when he dropped out there. Okay, let's call him back.
Oi.
Literally, the second I said Vinny Vici, you just I lost you. It was like you were just gone.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man. Yeah, you shouldn't have said it.
Oh, the V word.
It's okay, the VV word. But hey, I really like what they do. Not to set it Tomorrowland though, but just like in general, it's cool. But yeah, that's again like, what you decide, what you want to do, where you want to go. So if you're an high-tech artist in Brazil,
why not just move to? No, you don't even have to move to Europe, but go to Europe for like a season and rent a place and just be in the middle of where all the gigs are.
That's what's happening a lot anyway. I have a lot of friends from overseas, and they are coming exactly for that. They come for the summer because if it's summer here, they just come here from May to August or September even. That's like 3-4 months, because a lot of the main hub is in Europe, especially in the summer with Ozora, Boom, Modem, all of this stuff. And you have dedicated festivals as well. In Germany, quite a few. In a concentrated way in a short period of time, and the open air things. A lot of people come for that.
Plus, if you're a new act, and it's like your prospects of getting a flight from Brazil, or a promoter paying for you to fly from Brazil, or to fly from 2 European countries over, you're probably gonna get more gigs if they can get you a £50 EasyJet or Ryanair.
Absolutely, yeah, that's very true.
Coming back to the guy's question, I think at the end of the day, when you're standing there and you've got all these people in front of you, and we're at a time now where we're seeing everyone's boom shots, you know, where there's like 10,000 people and it's just them, and it's like you see these artists having an experience of a lifetime, right? Like you're commanding this mothership of like a huge crowd, and it's the spotlight's on you and all the focus. This is your moment, and if you're gonna get that moment in life, like you're gonna want to be playing music which to you is just the truest expression of you, right? Like you don't want to finally get that stand-up moment and you're like, yeah, I mean, music's not really me, but it works, you know. Like you're gonna want it to be like a creative pinnacle.
This for me, that's the reason why I am an artist, why I'm writing music, right?
Yeah.
This is exactly the reason. That's what you want. And I get from people also, like, often that, man, this is you. Like after I played, or when I get off stage, or feedback about my music or whatnot, that, man, this is you. I could feel you, or you could see on stage that you connected with your music, that, you know, that you really liked what you played and stuff like that. And I think that's very important for the crowd to see as well, that you're authentic as an artist. It doesn't mean that maybe you really like the very, very commercial side of it and you're really into it, and that's your true expression of yourself. I mean, you know,
sure.
all power to you. That's amazing. It's great. You know, you should, and people will feel it. So it's, I mean, the reality is as well that stuff goes produced as well, and it's happening everywhere. It always has happened, and it will always be happening. But then again, that's many times it's not very persistent, and it's not very authentic, and it doesn't have a longevity really. So
and that's on the person who's getting their music ghostwritten. It's like they can take all the credit, they can get the big crowd, they can rock the thing, but deep down they're gonna know this wasn't fully me. Yeah,
this wasn't fully.
So that's their bad, really.
Yes, it is. I mean, and you should. I mean, there is also no shame. I mean, I like to work hard. I like to do everything myself. It's the longer route, yes, but for me, it's more satisfying and more. If I have success with that, I can say it's something I've done from the very beginning.
I think the people who we remember year after year are exclusively people who just kind of did their own thing, even if it's did their own thing, but they still have like a very similar bass line or whatever, you know. But the generic names, they come and go.
Yeah, they do most of the time. Some might stay for a little bit longer until the hype's over. Some might make the hype a new thing, you know. The music scene is evolving. The truth is, everything's coming and going, you know, always, everywhere. It's coming back, and you just have to stay there and do your thing. If you can also get lost in the craziness of trying to adapt, and it's also kind of a rat race. I think it's more important to focus on you, on the uniqueness of your music, on the originality. Keep doing your thing, and eventually you will be rewarded for it, and recognized for it, and respected for it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're making your mark. If you just get your production up, and if you just keep on with that idea, I think it's always going to come up. What's next for you, Phil?
Yeah. In September next month, we have another Quadrasonic show. That's for everybody who didn't hear about it yet. It's the project of Wayo, Materia, Signwriter, and me together. We are playing psychedelic trance and surround. And we did a couple of shows. We did Antares now in August or July. It was July.
How do you make that work with 4 people?
Yes, we do make it work. It's a band, Alex. You should know how this works.
Yeah, but it's like that sounds to me like a band with 4 lead singers.
Yeah, or 4 background singers.
Ooh, okay. So you're more like a choir.
Yeah, exactly. The music is the surround system is the lead singer. So and we just came also from Atmosphere Festival in Mexico, where we also played the Quadrasonic show next month, returning to Brazil for the second time, I think, with the Quadrasonic ship.
And do you release it in stereo as well, or?
Yes.
Okay.
We released a stereo version of the track that we play in surround. I don't know if it makes a lot of sense yet to release in a surround format.
Well, you could just have two laptops. You could have one in front of you and one behind you. 4 iPhones.
Yeah, you could, and strap them around your head. Yeah, if it would just work like that. But so that's taking up quite a bit of my time or our time recently.
Like literally twice as much as your time.
4 times as much.
Yeah.
Everything's times 4 with the project, so
except the fee. Which is divided by 4.
Exactly. That's like that's the thing that gets where I would love to have the multiplication sign in front. But it does work very, very well, shockingly well. We are bringing it to different sizes of dance floors, and right now we are playing with different sizes, different setups, with great success, I have to say, and it works every time. There is some more stuff happening there, so watch this space.
Mate, that's all we've got time for today, but it's been so awesome catching up with you. It was great starting off doing the masterclass together and just to see what you've been up to.
Absolutely, anytime again. Chat's good. Very, very nice podcast thing you have going on. Wish you many interesting conversations, and absolutely, man. It was a pleasure to be on.
All right, mate. Cheers. Catch up soon, yeah?
Cool. Bye, man.
And I neglected to mention there, actually, that the caller who did not provide his name was the winner of this week's giveaway. So we're going to be getting in touch and letting you know how you can get your free copy of the initial audio Sektor. It's a polyphonic wavetable synth that I will actually be also running through at the end of the podcast. So zip to the end if you want to hear that baby in action. Although don't zip to the end because we still have plenty of show coming up. Always great to catch up with Phil.
Always good to hear from Phil. It's funny, there's definitely something going on because I also have crazy neighbours. 2 pretty mental things have happened actually recently. We have one who is a cross-dressing sex worker who also is, he likes to smoke a bit of meth. This is actually a completely true story. Am I allowed to say that on air? I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on air.
Why not?
And they think that we're constantly like trying to jump over their fence and break into their house, and it will literally I played a gig the other night. I had an EP launch the other night, and we came back at 5 a.m, and they came out and they were like, "You fucking cunts, breaking into my house, if you do it again I'm gonna send the heavies," right? And we're just like, what? We've literally just got home, no one is trying to break into your house, what are you talking about?
And P.S. heavies?
Fucking send the boys round to bash your door in, and I'm just like, that's never gonna happen. For a start, I'd be just go away, and then inevitably 3 days later they'll come back and be like, "Oh, I'm really sorry, don't really know what's going on there." And I was like, well, I know what was going on there. You were smoking ice. That was what was going on.
So you're calling his bluff on the heavy snake.
Yeah, dude. I mean, we'll see what happens. If I can't do the podcast next week, then send a search party out. But and then the other day as well, we were my housemate Tom that I mentioned earlier that went to Boom, we have another guy subletting his room who's conveniently enough is also called Tom, so that's quite easy. But yeah, I was asleep. It was maybe 2 a.m, and someone else so we've got a block of flats next door essentially, so it's a little bit, it's a little bit crazy. And this person comes round into the garden with a torch, and I could kind of hear some commotion and just sort of thought whatever, and went back to sleep. And then the next day, I wake up in the morning and there's an extension cable running out the window through to their house, right? And the window is smashed in their house, and I'm like, what's what? I said to Tom, what's going on? And he was like, dude, this random chick from next door just came into the house, came into the back garden at 2 a.m, knocking on the back window, and was like, can I use your power because my power's been cut off? And we're just it's 2 a.m. Like, what's going on? And then they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we can give you $50 to like pay for the electricity bill. I'm like, if you can't get into your house to use your electric, like, how have you got $50? Like, why don't you just pay the bill? Like, what is going on? So yeah, we have, and then a couple of days after that, their window is being boarded up. Like, yeah, man, it's neighbor situation over here is crazy. And like the old adage of like, that's when neighbors become good friends is definitely not the case right now.
I'd actually say that my biggest threat as a musician, neighbors have been that, but it's actually more the people I live with, and some of whom might be listening now, and I love you all. I love you all, seriously. But but there's one phrase which just gets my blood going, and that's, do you reckon you could use headphones? It's like, not really actually, because various reasons why I'm not going to finish mixing my track on here. I get it, it's, I don't want to be unreasonable. I mean, this is what being a musician in an urban space or in a shared house means. You're basically pissing people off for a fucking living, or on a seriously regular basis. And every single person who I've ever lived with, love you all, but I have seen in a dressing gown at like 2 a.m. standing in my doorway doing, remember how Ross from Friends would do that kind of crunching, quiet down thing? And it's like, I think you just have to get better at it, don't you? You just, I don't know. I never found a solution. Hey,
Futurephonic, I have a question for you. I get the feeling that really great sounds are made by layering tons of effects on, but I find that things get really messy quickly when I do this. You got any advice on how to keep things tidy but interesting? That would be a real help. Thank you. I have another question which relates to producing for a live show. Basically, how would you work things if you know you're playing on a big stage, like a big outdoor stage, like the Boom stage? How different would it be tweaking your tracks so it sounds good on that, as opposed to, say, if you're playing in a smaller club? Are there any sort of tricks for basically kind of producing, stroke kind of mastering your tracks, for a big stage as opposed to a little club stage, or is that something you do in-house in the mixer?
Cool. Great question, Patrick. In terms of mixing, there shouldn't be any difference at all between mixing for a smaller stage, mixing for a larger stage. The only thing that I would say, I mean, the sound system is a sound system. Sure, bigger stages have bigger sound systems, but the process is exactly the same. If there is a difference, I would say it more comes down to track selection. When you're dealing with a bigger stage, like an outdoor stage, at Boom, for example, or one of the bigger festivals, there's a lot more things in the way between your ears and the speakers. You've got things like weather, crowds, various other bits of distractions. It's not an ideal acoustic environment. It's not going to be as focused. So like smaller, more intricate details are going to get lost a lot more quickly. So if there is a difference, it would be more picking tracks that I find are usually a bit more stripped back, or the functional elements are very strong and dominant. You want things that do the job and do the job well, and you just got to think that people aren't going to be hearing these tiny little background effects. So yeah, in terms of the actual mix process, there's absolutely no difference whatsoever. But in terms of track selection, yeah, I would say pick things that work better in larger spaces. That generally means more stripped back, slightly more functional, less intricate tracks is what I would say to that.
You have to remember that everyone else playing, especially the DJs, are just playing music which has been made to sound good on every possible system. So that's what what the mixing process is making sounds which translate from speaker to speaker. If everyone was mixing their tracks to sound good at Boom, then I would say yes. But no one has a luxury. So, like, when you get a track back from a mixing engineer, there's not like a to be played at Boom mix. There's just the mix. There's just the mix. Exactly. And that's got to sound good on the radio. It's got to sound good on your iPhone, on your laptop, the massive sounds. That's where the rig has been finely tuned to do best is make music which sounds good in all those situations. And that's
it's the rig and the audio engineer's job at that gig to make it sound good, in particular at that gig. It's not your responsibility as a producer at all. You provide something that is blanket good in every situation, and the rig and the sound engineer at the gig will make it fit the space. That's generally the vibe that you're going for.
However, if you do have, like, say you've got 1 week to go, so you've got a gig at like a big festival, and you want to play your new track, and you've got less time than you'd like to finish mixing it, what are the priorities? If you're trying to think like what could most go wrong on a big sound system, what, for instance, if your track is too subby, too much stuff, say below 30 hertz, that's a problem which isn't too bad when you're listening to it on a MacBook Pro, but which becomes amplified like a bazillion on a big sound system. So I'd say definitely pay extra attention to your low end. If I'd say, right, I've got 1 hour to mix a track, what should I do to make it sound best on a sound system? I'd say look out for the bottom end. Also, just the harsh frequencies. So stuff between 1 and 5 kilohertz. Stuff which is poking out there. Again, when it gets amplified a million times to like a 20,000 watt sound system, that's when people start holding their hands over the ears going, ah. So attention in those two areas. I want to answer your first question about how sound effects can build up. And it's super relevant to me right now because I'm about 40% of the way through my next serum bank. So this is a problem I'm dealing with every day. And you're totally right that a lot of great sounds, especially in the psychedelic world, are made from layering tons of effects. And we have such a huge toolkit at the moment. In my experience as a sound designer and a synth patch maker, the thing which makes really professional sounding stuff versus stuff which is maybe a bit more amateur is that extreme attention to detail at every stage of the process. A typical chain would start at an oscillator and finish at a reverb. And between that, you've got more oscillators, you've got filters, you've got possibly distortion, you've probably got compression, delay, reverb. So you've got a lot of opportunities there for some, let's call it a bug, to creep in, some sort of weird harshness, which continues to get amplified as it moves through the chain. So, I mean, I particularly find phasers and flangers to be very troublesome because they're unpredictable, they're hard to control. Also, resonant filters, just one little moment where a filter gets too resonant will feed into your distortion. Maybe your compression will enhance that. And then if you send a resonant filter into a flanger, oh my God, you've got some serious problems. And then that gets delayed, so then it echoes and echoes and echoes. And then you got reverb, so it sustains. So you've got one little issue which gets worse and worse and worse and worse. So if you're trying to get that professional level of sound design, it's crucial that you really take a detailed approach to every single stage of that process, and it's important as well that you use pro quality effects. Like in our last podcast, I demoed the Melda MB Granular. It's multi-band granular. It's a great plugin because it's hard to make it sound bad. So it's very usable in that sense. Some plugins, for instance, I wouldn't necessarily say that more expensive plugins are necessarily better quality, but there's some stuff out there, some kind of freeware flangers and stuff like that I would avoid like the plague because it's impossible to keep them sounding really smooth. And for a genre like psytrance, you need really smooth stuff. And as I've also mentioned before, I take like 3 to 4 hours sometimes on sounds which might sound like they were made in 5 minutes, but it's that extreme level of detail and attention to every step. Am I using the right waveforms? Am I using the right oscillator? Am I using the smoothest filter? Am I using a nice creamy distortion? Am I using flangers and phasers which aren't bringing all this weirdness into the sound? Am I using the smoothest delay I can find? Am I using the nicest reverb algorithms? That's the difference, I think, between pro quality sound design and less quality sound design. So speaking of sound design, the very friendly folks over there at Initial Audio offered us a free giveaway of the Sektor plugin. And I've sort of had my eye on this for a while because what it looks like, and now actually delving in and playing with it, it looks like someone who's a big fan of Sylenth, Massive, and Serum, those sort of three big guys, have had the crazy idea to sort of just turn them all into one mega synth. So it's got different aspects of all three of those synths while having some really unique features. So it's like Sylenth, it's oscillators and filters and LFOs surrounding a central display. But in terms of its capabilities, it's more like a mixture between Serum and Massive. So it's a wavetable synthesizer. Let's get that out of the way. It's a wavetable synth, and it's got a really nice visual approach to looking at the wavetables. They've also got tons and tons and tons of wavetables to choose from. They've clearly been hard at work with that. So I think the way I'm going to do this today is to just show you what I've come up with sort of after 5 minutes of jamming with it. So this is the built-in arpeggiator, slowly morphing through the waveforms. Let's hear just that low oscillator. Really nice stereo spread on the delays here. And actually, it's actually the reverb which has a really nice stereo spread. Feels really natural. This one's called Epic Brass. Let's stack up some notes. Do a bit of filter cutoff. Nice and dirty. It's got a really nice drive knob on it. I don't always like the drive knob on synths like this, but yeah, it's quite a sort of. I try to use this term sparsely, but it does have quite a sort of analog sound to me. The built-in distortions in the effect rack are a bit more intentionally digital, but yeah, I like that. This is the Plaza lead. It's with and without the transgate there. And it's just a really nice, simple transgate. I like how they've kept it very simple there. Just on, off, and rate. It's an epic choir. I just made this patch myself. Sort of a slow filter attack. You can really see the power of the inbuilt sampler there. This is just a choir sample, and this is the same sound, but I've just arpeggiated it. So that's what I came up with when I just sort of played with it for a few minutes. It's a kind of synth you're going to need to play with for a while and learn how it works. It's got a few tricks up its sleeves. I really like the two effects racks that can have different inputs of filter 1 or filter 2 or filter 1 and 2. It's nice to be able to split the filters off into different effects racks like that. It's nice to have the familiar arrangement of a sub and two oscillators and a sampler. So yeah, thanks very much to Initial Audio for letting me have a go on it. And to our lucky caller who won a copy, I know you're going to come up with some great stuff with it.
Cool, so that's all we've got time for today. So first and foremost, thanks to all of the callers for calling in. We really can't do it without you, so do keep your calls coming in, and we'll be looking forward to answering a bunch more of those next time around. Big thanks to Brainiac, always interesting to hear what he's up to. Big thanks to Initial Audio, and well done to the winner of Sektor. I hope you have a lot of fun with that.
Yep. Thanks everybody for calling in. You can just leave us a Facebook voice message. Just find us on Facebook Messenger. Hold down that little microphone, leave a voice note. That's how you leave a call, and that's what we're getting back to today. You're listening on either SoundCloud or YouTube right now, so just hit the heart button, hit the like button, leave a comment. Always great to hear from you guys, and we'll catch up with you next time. See you later.
Catch you guys.